All right, so we're going to start back up again. As you saw, I have put all that stuff in there, so I have just those little comments in there with those alerts on there. And I think John mentioned it, that if you run yours and you've got the code that I've got showing in here, you might get warnings for that UI alert. But on the handout that I gave you, that's actually the right way to do it. So the right way for you to do it is the wrong way for me to do it because I'm running an earlier version. All right, as soon as I can hopefully bump that up, we'll all be fine. I've got to do it by the end of the semester, figure out a way to do it. If I have to, I'll probably just end up just reformatting the whole hard drive. Okay, so when you think about this, okay, the stuff that's in here, all right, I've got the rules, I've got the clear, I've got the exit. I don't know if you agree with this or not, but the make guess is probably the hardest one that we have to write. I think it is, because that's really where all the logic is. All I want to do when I click New Game is I want to start a new game. So what do I want to do? I want to make sure that this stuff is blanked out. Any variables or whatever that I'm using, I want to make sure they're blanked out, set to 0 or whatever, and I want to generate a new random number. Does all that make sense? So that's what I want to do. Okay? This, where the hand is, as I mentioned to you before, Apple does not, in fact, they ask that you not have an exit button, but I just put it in there anyway. The clear, same kind of thing. When I click clear, I want that to clear, I want that to clear, I want that to clear. I want any variables that are in my program to either be zeroed out or cleared if they're string variables or whatever. All right? The rules, I'm already partway there, right? Where I've got the one up here for show the rules. All I have to do is add to this. And if I do that, I should be okay. All right, so that one's almost written already. And so the only one we have to worry about is make guess. So even though it's probably not good protocol practice, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the easy ones. All right, whether that's right or not, I don't care. And it's funny because people have asked me in the past, they said, well, I understand what you're doing. I understand how you're saying you're starting with the easy one, etc. But how do you do that out in the real world? You know, so if you're actually writing an app, how do you do it? And there's no answer to that because it depends on the place you're working for. It depends on literally, are you starting something new or are you fixing something that somebody else started or whatever? Are you working alone or are you working with other people type of thing? All right, so there's no magical answer. But I've never, well, I consider myself fortunate for this. I can't think of a time in my life when I've ever written code professionally when anybody has been behind me watching me and say, why'd you do that? Why'd you do that? I just have never had that happen. All right. I wrote something once. I wrote when I was at Woodward Governor, and it was a very long program, and I wish I'd asked the person to look at it before I started writing it, but I waited and asked him after I got done. And I wrote about 2,000 lines of code. And he said, what you got is fine. You want it to work about 10 times faster? He showed me a bunch of little changes to make, and boom, instead of taking about this long, it went like this, and it just got real fast. All right, but that's about the only time. And I've had code reviews and stuff too. All right, so when I start a new game, well, I already told you what I want to do, but now before I even do anything, I want to start thinking about the variables that I want to have in there. All right, the program variables. Right now, the program variables. Do you all understand? If you look up on your screen on the screen right here, that if I want to jump to the top of my screen, I hold down on the button that says Command and I press the up arrow. If I want to get down to the bottom of my screen, I hold down on the Command and press down arrow. If I want to get all the way to the end of the line on the right, Command right arrow, all the way to the left, Command left arrow. All right, and I have not shown you this, but there is absolutely nothing stopping you from going into Google and typing in Swift cheat sheet. In fact, even better than that, Xcode cheat sheet. And there's a bunch of them out there. All right, I'm looking right here, and there's one under Git Tower. There's I don't want the Objective-C one, but Xcode cheat sheet on Tower. What I'll do is I'll grab this one that's here, and I don't know how good it is, but I'll look through it. I'll look through a couple of them find the one I think is best, and throw it out there on the system. All right. If you want copies, I can make hard copies. All right. It depends on how big it is. All right. So I'm going to start to think here, what variables? Well, you can see already I've got my 3 outlet variables. There's absolutely nothing right now that says I have to have blank spaces in there, but I do want to show you something if you look right there. See these dots? Everybody see those? If I take my mouse and I click on any one of these 3, the dots should become blackened because it's showing me the association. It shows me that this goes with this, and that's what that black dot is. This goes with this, and that's the black dot, and this goes with this, with that black dot. So you can see we've made the linkage between our GUI and our actual code. All right? So again, take my mouse, click there, or take my mouse and click there, and it knows that those 2 are connected now. All right, so I want to put in my program variables. So I put in my system variables, so to speak. I want to put in my program variables. I'm going to use the same ones that I used on the handout that I gave you. All right? So the number that I'm going to generate, I called it number. And I made it of type uint32, and I set it equal to 0. Why did I do that? Because I'm going to use a routine on here to generate a random number and stick it in there. The routine that I'm going to use expects that the variable that you give it is a uint32, so a 32-bit integer. All right, that's why I set it up like that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have put anything in there. Okay, I would have just put var number equals 0. But if you put var number equals 0, it thinks it is a quote regular int unquote, which doesn't work well with what we want to do to generate the random number. All right. Now, in the handout that I gave you, and that's why I gave you this handout, there's comments. I don't have time to write these comments, but the comments are in there. So if you wanted to go and try to map up the comments, you'd be able to do so. Okay? So that's the first one. Then I've got another variable that says var, and I called it the guess. And I set that equal to 0. All right? And I've got another one, number of guesses. So those, for right now at least, those are the 3 variables I'm going to use. If you don't look up on the screen here, does it make sense to you? That's going to be the secret number. All right, that's what I'm trying to guess. This, the guess, that's this. But I want to be able to take this that's in here and convert it to an integer. Okay? And number of guesses, that's this. So I'm linking up these here numerically. But remember, you've heard this again and again. And if you're getting sick of hearing it, sorry. But everything that we enter into here on our GUI, those are strings. But we want to be able to compare them arithmetically, so we need to give them arithmetic equivalence. And that's what we're doing. All right. I'm also going to have 2 constants. Remember, variables are with var and constants are with let. So I'm going to have min number, then I'm going to set equal to 1. And I'm going to have max number, then I'm going to set equal to 100. All right? So those are the minimum acceptable values and the maximum acceptable value. All right? I didn't do it on the handout I gave you, and I didn't do it here. I usually put my constants before my variables. It doesn't really matter which way you do it, but I will tell you, don't mix them. Keep all your variables together. Keep your constants together. Develop your own standard or your own protocol for doing this. Whether you put all your constants on the top and then your variables, or vice versa. Some people, when they do this, and you can see it on the handout that I gave you, they like to be good little soldiers and line everything up. Some languages let you do that and some don't. It's really not that important. All right? I mean, I've seen people who go that nuts that when they did this would drive them nuts because these 3 variables aren't in alphabetic order. To me, that's getting a little bit too anal with stuff like that, but everybody's different in how they code. All right? All right. Well, I want to do my new game. Okay? So that's the one I'm going to do next, this new game that's right here, that one. All right? And again, if you take a look up on the screen here, I just clicked on the new game button. You already see all this stuff. This is what we changed before. All right? But if I keep clicking over here, and I go over, I think that's the one. There it is. Please look, because this is really, really important. I clicked on here, and then I clicked on the last one that's right here. And notice what it says. It says touch up inside, which means when I click the button, all right, we want you to call the new game routine. You can see the linkage now that we have in here. Does that make sense to everyone? All right. There should be at least a communication that's taking place. How do I know that? I put all those alerts in there, right? And so you knew that when I pressed the button, something was happening. All right. So there's really two things that I want to have happen when I start a new game. Okay, there's really two things. The first thing is I want to clear my interface, and the second thing is I want to generate a new random number. All right. So in other words, I want to do two things in here. I want to force that clear button to be clicked, for lack of better words. All right. And after I force that clear button to be clicked, then I want some stuff to happen there. Does all that make sense? It is literally possible for you to write code where you can have this button call that button's click routine. You understand what I'm saying? To me, that's a horse's ass way of doing things. Because technically what I want to have happen is whether I click this button or I click this button, I want the first thing to happen is I want to clear out all my variables. So what I decided to do was to write a separate routine that's not going to be hooked up with an IB action, but it's going to be called by my routine. All right, so I just called it clear all, so that's going to clear everything. Then it's going to call another routine to generate the random number. So what I'm telling you is, right underneath my clear GUI routine right here, all right, I wrote another routine, and I call that routine just clear all. It's on page 4 of the handout that I gave you. So it's just func clear all, and I'm going to start writing it. Now, you look up on the screen here. When I click this, now what's going to happen? When I click this, it's going to call all this stuff, right? And I don't really want that to happen. When I click either this button or this button, I want this routine to be called. Does that all make sense? So I'm going to keep that in there, but I'm going to comment it out. All right. Again, if that confuses you and you want to remove it, then remove it. But I know I've got that there. If I ever had a big problem and I had to remove all the stuff that was in that routine, all right, I'd still have some code there that would be working code. All right. So I'm just going to comment everything out that I've got here. And you know how we comment. /*, end it with */. All right, whoop, sorry, one off. In fact, I'm going to put it right here. Okay, put that on a line by itself. All right, so what I want to have happen both when I click this button and when I click this button, the first thing I want it to do is call clear all. All right, that's the first thing I want to have happen. So I'm going to call it. You'll notice the IntelliSense already picked it up because I've already typed in func clear all. All right. And again, you've got the code in front of you, or you can watch me type it in, whatever tickles your fancy, so to speak. probably call that, I think, just guess. You have to spell right, Jeff. Give me a second to type that in, then we'll go back over it as a class. Did you ever hear that old saying? And I'll say it the way it is, even if it sounds sexist, so if it does, sorry. But it's, what is it? Give a man a fish, feed him for a meal, teach a man to fish, you feed him for life type of an idea. You all know what I'm talking about, right? This part of the course right here, because you're learning how to do this, what I'm doing is I'm yanking your ass into the boat. I'm taking you exactly where I want it to be. I'm baiting your hook. I'm throwing it out for you. I'm having you hold it. And then basically when the fish comes, I'm helping you reel it in. That's kind of where we are right now. But the idea is about halfway into next semester, I give you the keys to the boat. And I say, now go out and get us dinner. That's kind of what we're getting to. All right. So if you look up on the screen here, this is the numeric variable right here, the guess equals 0. That's for the UI text field. The number of guesses is numeric value for the bottom label. The self.guess.text is our guess. The status is that. And notice I put number of guesses equal to 0, just so we're sure it says 0 when we start. All right? Do I have to do that? I think it's cleaner to do it that way. All right? And also, if you look, so what did I do? I called clear all now from my clear. So this button will now call this routine. And I want to take that same clear all call, and I want to put it into my new game. Does that make sense? So I'm going to comment out all of this stuff in my new game, and it's going to look basically just like this one when I get done. All right? Is there anything that we've done so far since we've been back from the break here that doesn't make sense to people? Because this is your chance to ask. All right? This is actually simpler code than you've been writing. This is simpler code than you've written in Java, for example. This is simpler code than you've written in PHP or that you've written in ASP.NET. But again, you're using a different IDE, you're doing a different language, etc. So that's why we're taking it slow like this. All right. Well, that's one of the things, as I said, that I wanted to do. So when we click the new game button, one of the things that we wanted to do was to clear everything. But the other one we want to do is we want to basically, all right, we want to end up also creating a new random number. All right, I'm trying to look at where I put that in here. There it is. That's on the bottom of page 4. Now, if you look real quick, if you look up I'm not going to type this, but if you look on your handouts on the bottom of page 4, it says number equal generate random number. Everybody see that? If you type that in like that, you're going to get an error message. Why? Because we haven't written generate random number yet. So you've got your choice. If that bugs you, then turn your page over and look at the top of page 5. Because that's func generate random number. And we're going to talk about the little arrow and the other stuff in there in just a second. So what I want you to do is put in that line on the bottom here, then underneath it, type in your new function. Then we'll go back and we'll discuss everything that's in there. So we will have time today that we will also write the exit. We've already written clear, and we've already written new game. So we'll also modify that rules thing, so we'll have the rules. And then next class, we'll finish this up, and we'll write the make guess. So we'll do that on Thursday. I'm hoping we can get that done in no more than an hour so we can start on the next project. All right? Again, it's your responsibility if you think we're going way too fast or this isn't a good way to learn or whatever, that you got to let me know. And if you feel funky about letting me know, then remember, how many more weeks do we have after this week? 4. Does everybody realize next week we only meet Monday, Tuesday? You get a 5-day weekend? Thank God. All right? Except for John. He's bringing a turkey in here on Thursday, and he's coming in here by himself. All right? Why? I don't have a clue. But I'll wave to you when I'm driving by. Okay? All right. So if nothing else, when you're doing your course evals in 4 more weeks, you can write down whatever you think. And I'll tell you, especially first-year people, some of them did. My boss asked me about one in particular. Well, I was like, wow, I don't think they really like you or your teaching style. I guess not. But I got, out of my class of 18, I had 12 in that class. 11 of them were very positive, and 1 would like to see me cremated, I guess. All right. All right, if you look up on the screen here, even if you're still typing, you'll have time. So what are we saying here? Number, remember that's our random number, equals generate random number. So in other words, we're going to call a function that's called generate random number. We're not passing anything, but it's got to return something because we're stuffing it inside a number. That should make sense to you. So it's func generate random number, paren, because there's nothing being passed in. In Swift, when you want to return a value, you do it like this. A minus sign, a greater than sign, and the type of value you're going to return. So uint32 is this. And because of the fact that arc4random wants a uint32, that's why I made number a uint32 at the top of the program. Now, are there better ways of doing it? Are there ways of getting around this? I'm sure there are. All right, I tried doing a bunch of stuff with casting and whatever, and I got mixed success. I tried to write this in what I consider to be the most straightforward way possible. You might not agree with that. That's your right. All right. So this is supposed to create a random number for us, and it creates one that's between 0 and 99, so we add 1 to it. Okay? And you could say, well, why didn't you put 101 there? Then you wouldn't have needed the plus 1. Because if I put 101 there and I leave that off, then it's a random number between 0 and 100. And we wanted it to be between 1 and 100. How did I know that? That was no epiphany on my part. I went and Googled it. You know, and I think I mentioned this to you the other day, that when I'm writing these things, I've got an Intel machine next to me, and I've got the Mac next to me. And with the Intel one, I've got it, I'm Googling all the time. Sometimes I just keep Stack Overflow open, and I just start typing stuff in there. All right, so we now have, again, we've got our new game. That's done. And we've got our clear button. That's done. So the next thing I'm going to do, and this is also on the bottom of page 4, is our exit function, which I called goodbye, but it'll work fine anyway. So again, I'm going to comment all this stuff out. That's right here. And I'm just going to write in exit 0. All right. Now we've got the exit button done. And that's a weird button because when I ran the program, it both worked sometimes and didn't work other times. I'm warning you of that right now. Okay? So we now have the code for this button written. We've got the code for this button written. We've got the code for this button written. All right? So we have 3/5 of our buttons done. What I'm going to do is that rules button right now, and I'm not sure I'm getting the error there, but I'll look at that in a second. But I'm going to go back to where I've got the rules up there. I'm just going to make some modifications to it so it prints out the actual rules. All right? Again, the rules that you have on the handout that you have are the right way of doing it. As John mentioned, what is it, the UI Alert View Controller? Whatever it was, that's the way that I did it. And again, how did I do that? I went out to Google because I couldn't remember for the life of me how to do it. What's that? Yeah, but the funny thing is when I did it the first time, I didn't get any error. It worked just fine. I understand what you're saying. You know, I could try to cast that, but I don't know exactly what that's going to do. So in other words, I could come in here and say, but I think that's just going to give me another error. I think if I leave it blank, it's not going to like that because it expects there to be a value in there. So you're missing argument for parameter 1. So let's look. Let's play stupid. And I can do that well. So I'm going to type in here, whoops. I'm going to type in here exit. Paren. All right. Now what does it want? It wants a string? I don't think so. That doesn't conform either. So I'll have to check out that error, okay? Unless one of you want to, and that's fine too. All right, so what I'm gonna do in the rest of the class today, because it's now 9:42, so I'm gonna change my rules so that when I click that, it'll actually give me the rules for the game, and I'm gonna see if I can find the answer to that right there. All right?
Exit one?
Yeah.
When you go back, you retype it, do the int32 instead of I got to start back over, and then tell us how it's kicked in. No, I'd go all the way back to exit. The first E is
Of course, you have to learn to spell, though.
That right there, that N32. I just put a 0 in there. The last parenthesis.
But see, again, yours works because you've got a newer version, and mine did work, but now it's not working. Okay, that's okay. I'll get it to work. I'm not worried about it at all. All right, so I'm going to come up to the rules here, and I'm going to make some changes to that. And you've got that code. Again, if you want to try this, you don't have to look up here, but if you listen, if you want to go to your rules, you've actually got the way to do it correctly for yours under the show alert that's on the bottom of page 3. All right, but that doesn't work for me. It did, now it doesn't. If you get time between now and Thursday, take a look at the make guess routine. See if you think it works or doesn't work. And maybe when you come in here, we can rewrite this together so that it works the way that it's supposed to. Yes, sir.
We need to initialize a random number at the beginning when the program loads.
Oh, yes, yes, thank you. Zane just brought up an excellent point here, all right? So let me stop the simulator. And what we want to do is we want to call that generate random number, all right? So, and yes, it actually is in the code that I handed out to you. But to me, the view did load was a good place to do that. So here we're going to call generate random number. All right, but we have to say number equals that because remember it's returning something. So you're right. So right here in your view did load, you can add number equals generate random number. If you don't do that, and it's a really, like I said, it's an excellent point, because if you don't do that, then on your interface, you've got to click the new game button when you start. That's kind of a cheesy way of doing things. Kind of the way I did it in the Android. John told me what to do. All right. I've tried 2 fixes already on this button thing, but I think that exit button, but I think the problem is the version I'm using. All right, because I did what they told me to do, but I still get, now I got a different error.
I couldn't get the import Darwin to work either.
Yeah. Like I said, first I'm not going to worry about it because Apple recommends you don't do that anyway. And second, I'm not going to worry about it because it'll get fixed by Thursday. If there's a way to fix it, we'll come up with one. So you notice there's my rules button now. I just incorporated all that stuff in that I told you about before. So it's a little ugly, kind of squished on the page. I'm not worried about that. All right. I'm not worried about aesthetics right now. I'm worried about getting an app up, running, and working the way that it's supposed to. You can always go back and make changes to it later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the whole folder of everything I've done thus far, and I'm going to put it out there on the P drive. It's going to be in a folder with today's date on it. So if you wanted to use that, if you were behind or yours doesn't work or whatever, all right, then you're going to be able to go out to the folder that's on the P drive for this class. It'll be under 11/17/2015. Drag that folder out onto your, save that folder into a flash drive, and then put the flash drive in the Mac and drag it over there.